The latest edition of the Rand Matters magazine is available. The June edition was launched a week or two ago, and our theme is Time to Build. A time for SGBs to make a difference in the journey that they found the school in. We always say that an SGB must leave the school in a better position than when they found it after the election. Our magazine goes out to all SGB members, but we urge you to share it with your team, share it far and wide. The magazine just highlights the work of the Centre for Finance and Risk Management, which is, number one, to put special focus on finance. Number two, to bring specialized knowledge to the sector. And number three, to show our solutions, our service providers that are corporate members of the Centre. Do not miss this edition. You can see that it page easily online, and it's not a quick read. This is not a newsletter and that you just spend 5 minutes on. Flag it for follow-up later on, bookmark it in your browser, and page through it when you have time. We've got editorials, we've got opinion pieces, we've got some knowledge from and input from our legal department, the classroom and the cash register. Every rand reflects a right. Brilliant article by our Deputy CEO, Dr. Riaan van der Merwe Mokke. Some opinion pieces that the FEDSAS leadership wrote, all of changes in the Bella Act, what we need to take note of on financial management, the looming crisis we face in school fee payments, and all our members that focus on school fee collections are highlighted in the magazine. Changes in the law, articles that were published on various different websites. As you can see, great magazine, great read. Make sure you've got the link, download a copy, share it with your team, and happy reading. Goeiemiddag almal, good afternoon. Nice to see so many faces on this platform this afternoon. My name is Riaan van der Bergh. I'm one of the deputy CEOs at FEDSAS. I'm also in charge of the Centre for Finance and Risk Management, which is hosting this session today. And very interesting, when we talk finance, suddenly there's a large volume of people interested, which just tells us, and we make that deduction ourselves, but it just proves the point that finances is a pressure point currently in our schools. School fee collections, budgeting cycle, changes in the Schools Act recently, and how we manage. So welcome to our session this afternoon. We're in for a panel discussion with some of the members of our centre on school fee collections, a little bit about exemptions and handovers and these type of things. And the Centre for Finance and Risk Management has various members and quite a few in the space of school fee collections, which is not a bad thing. I think it's a good thing that we have choice, but the bad thing about it is the fact that it's such an active space means that there's pressure on schools, and that's why we brought them all around the same table. This is not an advertisement pitch. This is not who's better than the other one, but the service of helping schools, making sure that the money comes into the school fund and into the school bank account. So with that, welcome. Baie welkom almal. I think we'll be doing most of the session in English because we've got a very mixed audience and some panel members that's possibly going to struggle with the Afrikaans side of things, but please participate today. You're welcome to keep I've got two screens here, so I'm just looking up quickly. You're welcome to leave your camera on. We've got quite a few people in the audience, so be careful with your microphones, but please participate. This is a meeting platform, not a webinar platform, so everyone can see what's going on. And if you want to raise your hand, if you want to type in the chat box at the bottom, shout with a question, or the Q&A box, I think it is, that's going to be available. No, it's the chat box with a question. So yeah, maybe just a few introduction comments. I want to share my screen quickly and just take us through a little bit of a journey here. And you should be seeing my slides from the first one there. As I said today, school fee collection and the difficult life of people in the school with school fee collection. And then we've got specialists around the table. I want to welcome I think their cameras will be open. It's Krishna Jenkins from CBJ Attorneys, member of the centre, Prosperitas. We've got Colette, Brett Bentley from Bentley Attorneys, and then Kari Labaskachny from Vericred. So welcome to our panelists. We're going to ask some questions, and we're going to rotate the starting answer so that we give everyone a fair chance. And then we also have Ladine van Sail from D6 Groups, a new initiative that they started called Fees, and she's going to tell us a little bit about that, which is an intermediate platform to manage school fee collections better. So yeah, welcome to all of our panelists, and thank you for joining us. I want to make this bold statement. I hear it very often. Should we collect school fees? It's a job. We just need to do that. But I think there's a philosophical step back that I want to take. It's not a privilege of school fee collecting schools to charge school fees and collect it. Because everyone voted for the school fee, because it becomes a statutory or a compelled payment, you have an obligation and a commitment to the parents that pay, that you do not walk away from the parents that don't pay. The only means to not pay school fees is by applying and qualifying for exemption. Otherwise, there is an obligation to pay, and which means if those parents don't pay, you can use the full might of the law to collect those fees or get to a point of, call it judgment, call it listing, whatever the end road is there. Because you're not stealing from the school if you don't pay. Steal is probably a strong word. You're not taking from the school, which is a business and an economic engine that runs from external funds. You're taking from the community, your fellow parents, your neighbors that do pay so that you don't pay. And as a paying parent, I would expect the school to ensure that they make all the efforts possible to collect fees from all fee-paying obliged parents. So there's an obligation to pay. It's actually against the law to just walk away from school fees as the school, as the collecting agent of the school fee. We can talk a lot about that, but I think the practical side of it is people know we've got to collect school fees, because without school fees, there's no resources. Without resources, we don't run a great school. And I think that's the economic engine that we're protecting here. Maybe a little bit of a background, and anyone is welcome to add on to this when we have the panel discussion. Why do we see so much activity around school fees and talks about finances? Last week we had the budget webinars, which we also presented, and more than 1,000 people registered for those. Today, talking school fees, 350 people registered for this. We know the economic conditions. I'm reminded by what a very renowned economist in the country said during COVID. Mike Schuessler is not with us anymore, but we had a webinar with him August, September 2020, and he said the tail or the shadow of COVID will hit us 2023, 2024. And I don't think we're still that much under the tail of COVID, but he was right in the timing of 2023, 2024, now 2025. We did not predict wars, unrest, wonderful things, not wonderful things, but weird and wonderful things happening in the economic world around the globe. Those, if America sneezes, we get the flu. We find ourselves economic conditions. We hear all about the unemployment rate in South Africa. We hear about low growth in South Africa. Services costing more and growing by more than inflation in fuel, municipal charges, just electricity. So we understand that the economic conditions are not ideal and not necessarily getting better. That means that as a school, we're exposed to those same conditions, which means that we've got to stretch every rand further. We've got to collect every rand. Every rand saved is a rand earned. Every rand collected is a piece of resources that go into quality education. So maybe just a backdrop to that, framing the economic conditions that we need to look at. Maybe a second bullet that I want to just touch on is something that we've been talking about for 2 years now, just shy of 2 years, is the exemption formula review and that regulation review. And we don't have good news to report that we're in the process of sitting with the department, but at least the department has published in internal meetings a timeline by which they want to do some activity, get some milestones, and by the end of September, they would have finished with their research. When we spoke to them about 2 weeks ago, they said they've got feedback from 106 schools. And I'll show you now, in the past 2 years, we've got feedback from 130 schools in 1 year and 175 schools in another year. And then we've done desktop research to show what the impact is of the exemption misuse, the abuse of that. So there is progress, not final yet, but we're possibly looking at new regulations for the 2027 year, which is much later than we hoped for. Something that made the news, and I think Jackie was in on the screen earlier, we see a lot of news reports on the post office failure, which means that we're struggling with the Section 41 letters. Jackie's part of Registered Communications, which is also a member of the centre. And we highlighted this problem with the department. And immediately they said, we hear what you're saying. Initially, they just said, well, the post office is the post office, talk to them. It's not a departmental thing. But Section 41 pushes us to registered mail, and it's not possible. So the school keeps being the one that loses out. Just in the backdrop of that, the number of fee-paying schools in the sector, if you go and read our Education in Numbers report, you'll know that there are 22,381 public schools in South Africa. Our estimation and limited reports by the department show that there's about 3,000, just under 3,000 fee-paying schools left. That used to be quite a few more. So fee-paying schools is a small portion and a reducing portion of our school sector. And without that, we cannot keep giving the quality education that we are giving. So yeah, maybe just framing the dark cloud, but there's a silver lining to that. Maybe just some information. Thank you for participating if your school does. This is 2025 research, just two of the questions from our exemption review. You can see schools reporting, 40% of schools reporting that more than 20% of their households are applying for exemption in 2024. So it's 2025 details on the history of 2024. That's a huge percentage, and that's a high number. It reduces 15%. Between 15 and 20% of households applying, only 17%. But you put those two together, more than 50% of schools report a higher than 15% exemption rate. That's not default payments. And you can see the rest of the statistics there. February, I asked schools, and about 130 schools responded and said, year-to-date exemption applications, that is by end of February, middle March, and 50% of schools said it's more than the same time last year. If I compare this with 2024, the number of exemption applications year to date, this was comparing 2023 and 2024, we see that it's a 63% jump. So interesting. There's the magazine. The link is in the chat box. Just to highlight, we're very excited to note that we are having our first series of RAND Matters conferences in both Afrikaans and English, 19 August in Bloemfontein, 21 August. And if you're interested, just scan that QR code and sign up so long, but we'll be going out with newsletters and social media advertising very shortly. I'm going to ask Alreta to run a few polls for us. We want to hear from you today, and then we're going to chat with our panel that looks so good around the table now. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Alreta, if you can run the first few questions there. FinTalk with our debt collectors. Does your school make use of an outsourced debt collector? Very easy. Yes, no, or not sure. Do you make use of specialized services? Question number 2, does your school make use of any of the debt collectors on screen today who are in the meeting? There might be someone else around. Some of our members could not make it today. But any of these 4, do you hand over debt after a period to a debt collector? Do you work the debt yourself? And then, so we're fed up with getting the bad answers. Let's hand it over after 6 months, 9 months, a year. Interesting question here. Do you process all your exemptions in-house or do you outsource? And do you actually get to a point where you request a listing at a credit bureau for someone? Maybe if we can just, I think there's just a drop down, give it another 10 seconds. But please give us answers so that we can see the reply there. Shall I give it another 5 or so seconds? Alreta, do we have participation there?
Yes, we're on 47% that's participating, 48.
No, I think that will give us a good idea. This is your last chance to use your fingers. Okay, let's close the poll and look at the results there and just give us an idea of what we're looking at today. All right, so does your school make use of 77% of people say they use. 67% do not use someone on screen. Great opportunity. Yes, people do hand over after a period of time and mostly in-house, 83% in-house. And then do you reach a point? It would appear that this was my thinking. And we have a question on this. Why do we not go to the point of actually showing our teeth in this? So thank you for participating. I just want to ask my panelists to make sure that they keep those information or those results in mind. And with that, I'm going to jump right into our discussion today. So I'm going to look at my questions here. Ladine, you're gonna share a little bit something on question 2, but you're not on all the questions, so all good seeing you. Krishna, you've been a member of the centre for quite a while now. What do you see in the sector? How is the winds of change blowing? What is the temperature of school fee collections? And has it changed over the past 3-5 years, or just the recent history? How would you describe school fee collections and the pressure or not that schools are seeing?
Good afternoon, everybody. Yes, Riaan, there's for sure a change in the temperature of school fee collections. In South Africa right now, school fee collections is a financial battleground and parents is under severe financial pressure. The increase in applications, as per your stats, prove that there is currently a crisis. A fragile economy, high inflation, unemployment, and rising living costs means parents struggle to pay school fees. On the other side, we have our schools, which experience revenue shortfalls, and several pre-handover processes is needed in order to do successful collection and increase their revenue, sometimes with few or limited resources. So yes, we definitely have a crisis on hand, and the temperature is rising when it gets to the collection of the outstanding school fees.
Well, thanks for that. Yeah, I think you mentioned or you touched on a few things. Colette, what are you guys at Prosperitas seeing in the change in the economy? Have you noticed a difference?
Yes, we have, especially in private schools where we've seen previously they had an issue where there is no payment, no education. Where now with the changes in law, we see that the non-paying parents has gone up from 20 to 30% per school, where that is becoming a problem. We find that the increase in delinquent accounts, not just in public schools, but also in private schools, is a serious problem. That has definitely made a big difference in the temperature of collections and school fees.
Yeah. Brett, Corey, I don't know if you want to add a little bit something. We went ladies first, so I think we can all agree on that, but any insights from you, Brett?
Yeah, we might be in winter in terms of seasons, but the temperature is definitely high in terms of the sector and what we're dealing with. There's no doubt that more and more schools are under serious pressure. Economic strain on parents, you've highlighted the economy, and schools are facing sharp rise in, as you mentioned, exemption applications. We're seeing partial payments, outright non-payments. But it's not just the economy that's changing as well. We've also, in the last couple of years, we've seen the legal landscape shift too. Legal enforcement is no longer the straightforward tool that it once was. Schools can't rely on the old handover and sue model, where collections are simply giving it to your local attorney or debt collector and, sort of hoping for the best. And what's needed now is a more nuanced, adaptive approach, one that recognizes that we're in a regulatory environment, the emotional sensitivities around public school fee collections, and the need that schools have internally for administrative relief. Schools need partners that don't just do collections, but understand the educational space, agile, compliant, and capable of navigating the complexities that this whole industry poses, and not just relying on outdated processes.
Yeah. No, I think we can agree. Kari, it's byvoeg. Anything that you want to add there?
Riaan, no, not. I think the question has been dealt with properly. I think our experience is the same, that the average consumer is overextended in debt, and they're living on the limit of what their income can manage at this stage. Our experience is that more and more people are being handed over for the same person for various types of debt, and then you realize people are actually living on debt, and it's becoming quite a big issue.
So we're 1 month away from a grinding halt. That's what you're saying. So maybe I can identify with a lot of people. Like I always made the joke, if someone steals my wallet, they can, if they're willing to pay off my credit card, they can have the credit card. But if what a friend of mine said, if I invest my overdraft, I can live off the interest. So that's the difficult thing of it. Guys, we have to look at what the schools are struggling with. How do we help them, and maybe short in a sense of, because we'll get to the solutions, but we saw from the stats 83% of schools or 67% of schools do not hand over, and 83% of them do their exemptions in-house. What is it that schools are struggling with, Colette, in this process?
I think the schools, some of them don't understand the legal options. They don't understand how far they can go. I had a school this morning that says, no, sorry, we're in an informal settlement. We can't hand over our debt. Something totally new that I'd never heard of before. The schools are struggling with the choice of, do we hand the parents over? Do we take that risk of the parents getting upset with us because we are handing them over? Is the financial staff capable and able to handle all those parents that are really upset? Because we get that often. Finance staff getting threats of parents because now they've been handed over. They want another chance. So the financial ladies are really struggling with that. Also managing the exemptions, because like you said in your stats, they are getting so vast. And we find, because we do the exemptions, parents are taking chances. They are lying about their incomes. They are trying to get away without paying school fees. So the schools are battling with that. That's why rather outsource it and get someone else who is doing it the whole time. The schools are really struggling with it, because some of the parents' emotions comes into play as well when it comes to exemptions. They know the parents, they do, and that they are struggling with it as well. Also, tracing the parents, getting the right information. That is what the schools are really struggling with, getting the money in. So
I hear you. I think there's so many elements to that. Specialized skill and knowledge in the office. I think that makes for good management support. Parents' culture. I think if I can summarize that, I think we're in a culture of struggling financially and then not paying. I want to ask Ladine to quickly come in here. Ladine, you're on the brink of launching something very exciting that will make schools' lives easier now. D6 is well known to our schooling fraternity, been a long-standing member of the Centre for Finance, and a lot of schools are using the D6 Finance module to run their finances, their billing, and all the collections and those other things. What is fees? Tell us about it, and why are we excited about it? Because it can help schools, but it also facilitates the process of debt management for the debt collectors.
Yes, thank you, Riaan. So as you mentioned, it's fees, FEASE. It's for financial ease.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Financial ease. I love it.
So we've recognized that obviously there's a need within our schools. It's a massive administrative burden that they face with managing and recovering the outstanding school fees. That's why everyone's here today, and there's a big need for it. So in collaboration and with the guidance of D6, FEES was born, and the core purpose of FEES is to lighten the load for our schools and to empower them to achieve financial stability. So it's an intelligent third-party solution that seamlessly integrates with D6 Plus Finance. So it automates the debt recovery process. So it's basically the step after billing the parents before you hand over. There's a bunch of reminders that you need to send out. It needs to comply, and this software solution takes care of that. So it streamlines the payment follow-ups. It automatically sends personalized reminders through email, SMS, and then eventually the registered letters. So it ensures that the school remains fully compliant without them having to worry about it. So it'll save an admin time of following up with an email every single parent. So it goes through that process, uses the age analysis from D6 Plus Finance. So it will increase your recovery rates and reduce the compliance risk. And it gives the school complete visibility on their financial status. So they'll be able to see the total exempted amount that they have in their schools in a real-time dashboard. Also with comprehensive reporting on the age analysis that they can use to make better decisions, and hopefully help with the financial stability of the school. And then when they get to the handover process, they will know that they've followed the right steps in place. Yes, there's an audit of all the actions that was taken on the data itself. So it will also make the lives of the debt collectors easier, because they'll know, okay, this parent has been communicated with frequently, and the correct letters were sent, and they did discuss exemptions with them, etc. So yes.
Brilliant. We're on the point of what schools are struggling with, and specialized skill and knowledge in the office and workflow and that kind of thing. Colette, thanks for that answer. Brett, do you want to add to that? What are schools doing wrong, or what are they struggling with? How can we strengthen them?
Yeah, I think Colette deals with the first issue that I was going to mention. That's the administrative burden. Managing that whole handovers process, chasing documents, the exemptions, they're time-consuming, resource draining, and most schools battle to handle the volumes of admin that they do. So, any automation in that space is definitely something that is a winner. So, I can definitely confirm that is one of the pain points that are there. Second, and also interrelated with what Colette had to say, is the legal and compliance complexities. Fee payments in schools is not just a financial task. I've had people that are bursars that have come from the private sector, and they've moved into this public school space, and they just look at the amount of compliance that they have to deal with, and it's a whole different beast for them, to have to deal with. And schools that don't have good advice, don't have good partners that understand how to navigate these compliance issues properly, they risk reputational damage. I mean, you can see it with that Supreme Court of Appeal decision on conditional exemptions. If you look at that case, that school was found to act unconstitutionally and unlawful. I don't think any school, wants to have that sort of tarnish on their name. And that's something that really is important. And then I think the other thing that specifically from the industry that we're seeing is, and it's something you alluded to at the beginning of this talk, there's a lot of people competing in the space. And because there's so much noise in the market, I think schools are being approached by all sorts of collectors out there of various shapes and sizes. And not every solution is fit for purpose. And I think because there's so much noise out there, schools are battling to listen to those that are strong in the sector, that actually know how to deal with the compliance issues, know how to deal with the complexities of this private school environment, and are maybe perhaps closing their mind because they've had to deal with 7 different calls in one day, offering them debt collection services. So, I think that trying to get schools to sift out the noise, but still be open-minded enough to listen to possible solutions that can give them something beyond just simple debt collections.
Yeah, I think that's critical, insights, not necessarily advice. And hopefully schools know that they can contact FEDSAS, they can contact the members of the centre and say, help us with this, but give us advice. And I think that's a difficult one. Schools, we've seen the questions, compliance, what's a good time? Compliance and best practice. Is it 3 months? Is it 6 months? How do we make it easier? We'll delve into some of those questions. Kari and Krishna, I'm going to jump to the next question. I think we've exhausted that, but Kari, I don't think you might be relevant to this question of the number of exemptions that you help schools with, but maybe in as short as possible, just give us a number. Krishna, Brett, and Colette, how many exemption applications are you assisting schools with, and how has that changed over the past few years? You use possibly credit bureaus to facilitate some of the process, but if you did 100 5 years ago, how many are you doing this year? Krishna?
Thank you, Riaan. Last year we ended with just under 1,900 applications, and we increased that specific clients. Now, I'm not referring to new clients. We increased to 2,600 this year. So there is for sure, based also as proof on your research, there is for sure a big increase on the exemptions.
Brett, your side?
Yeah, literally, I think schools were initially reluctant to give out this process to outsource because they felt, this is something they want to do internally, and they didn't want, people just giving away exemptions willy-nilly, these third parties, and they have to follow it. But I think it has gained traction, and absolutely the growth that we've seen over the years has been phenomenal, where we are now looking at figures towards, we're looking at figures in the thousands as opposed to the hundreds a few years back. So, the number of qualifying parents, I think your financial data there shows it well. We're seeing a lot of schools, below the 10% mark, but we're seeing, schools up to 40% of parents qualifying for exemptions. This is a huge shift over the last few years.
Which is close to a tipping point. Colette, on your side, number of exemptions announced?
Well, last year we done about 2,000. We haven't received all our exemptions, but we're already over 3,000. So we will probably end up close to 9,000 this year. Sure. If all our clients do give their exemptions in. So it's a big, huge difference.
It's a huge number. Now, keeping in mind, there's a lot of people, parents in public schools. So, we add these numbers together, but we're looking at millions, probably 3 million learners in public schools, fee-paying public schools. So, yeah, there's a huge number, but the increase is there. Kari, ek weet nie of did you want to add something to the exemptions there?
No, Riaan, we are not involved in exemptions at all. So, no, nothing to add there.
Okay, Kari, then I'm going to jump to you with the next question. Interesting one. Advice, not necessarily sales pitch, but advice. What are the questions that schools should ask in this journey of collections and handovers? Should they do it in-house? Should they outsource? Should they outsource early? Should they outsource late? Should they chase for listings? What are the questions? I'm a brand new chairperson. How do I face this? I see the trends, I see the economic pressures. What questions should I ask rather than what answers should I be getting?
Riaan, I want to start with what the nature of school fees are. And I want to add what Colette said earlier with regards to legal compliance. Now, if we look at school fees, it's a statutory duty in terms of Section 39, but now the schools are extending that duty contractually due to the fact that the Schools Act doesn't provide for the amount and the method of payment, as well as something else than school fees, like, for example, hostel fees. So now they contract with a parent for these other fees and for the amount and the method. And then the problem is that you can safely assume that such a contract will fall under the definition of credit and will be a credit agreement in terms of the National Credit Act. and most of them are incidental credit agreements without going into the legal jargon of it. And that means that there must be compliance with the NCA, that there must be compliance with the POPI Act. And when you hand over a debt, then obviously the compliance for the National Credit Act and POPI becomes a requirement in that sense. So with that said, is that I think the question that the schools must ask is that they must change their approach to this, and that they must regard themselves as a business dealing with their parents as clients. And one of the things that we are experiencing that there's not proper vetting in terms of when they contract with a parent. In terms of the FIC Act, the Financial Intelligence Centre Act, they've got this term, know your client. And I think one of the questions that the school must ask is are they vetting their parents properly? If they get information, if a parent is saying, I'm working for ABC and I'm earning X amount per month, where's the proof of that? And I think proper vetting is a starting point when dealing with your parents and contracting with them around the school fees. And that will help immensely with a debt is being handed over as well. So I think the strategy must change in the sense that the schools must look at themselves as a business and dealing with their parents as clients and do a proper vetting, the same with the exemptions. But before even exemption, to get, in terms of POPI, the correct information and the valid information that is up to date, and vetting these information with proof as such.
Okay. You touched on many things there, and on the one side, 100% agreement with you. School is a business. We should govern well, we should manage well, and we should know our client. I think that's critical. But there are some nuances that it is a public school, and it's a question of what I started off earlier. If someone doesn't pay, someone else has to pay. We can't sell to another client. We can't take that person out. So there's a lot of things. Krishna, I don't know if you want to add to that. What are the questions that I should be asking as an SGB member to ensure that I take the best route forward? Krishna, it looks like you have frozen. Colette?
So what we found is that the school, before they hand over, the questions they have to ask and that they don't ask is, how far do you take it? Do you want the parents to be just listed? Do you want judgment? Do you want summons? I think that is important before they hand over, is to get that clear. The SGB has to decide how far they want to take it. Also, policy, are we handing them over after 90 days, 120 days, or after a year, 365 days? That is very important for the schools to decide before they hand over what is their policy going to be. If that's in place before a debt collector sits in, they speak out of the same voice, and we as debt collectors would know what is expected. When are we getting what? How long do we have to get the school legally compliant before they hand over? So I think that is important from our side, that we think the school should ask before they hand over and look at a debt collector.
Krishna, I see you back. It looks like you're back. You just had some movement on your screen. Not sure if your internet is stable. Do you want to add to that? Brett, I see your mic's open. Do you want to give us a nugget of wisdom? Because I want to get to I see there's a bunch of questions coming in. I want to do about maybe 4 or 5 minutes of our own planned questions, but then jump into real questions at school level. Any wisdom from your side?
I know it sounds pretty trite, but it all starts with the fee policy of the school. I think a fee policy is an important step in that every school needs to do. Shouldn't be that document that was drafted 10 years ago that's sitting in the bursar's top drawer that's drawing dust. It should be aligned with the current exemption regulations, Bella, the best practices. So that's what I would say. Also, acting foster, I think a lot of schools are under pressure administratively, and handing over the basic rule of debt collection is the older a debt is, the harder it is to collect. So, do you take into account the question of prescription? Do you take into account that the older your debt becomes, the more difficult it is to collect in terms of your policy there? And then we've touched on compliance there. I think those are the sort of the main issues that we need schools need to think about in terms of their approach.
No, I like that, and we've got questions relating to that in the audience questions. Krishna, it looks like you're back. I'm hoping if you need to turn off your camera to save bandwidth. But I want to throw the next question to you. Do we see success in listings? We've asked all these questions. How far do you want to go? The people are obliged to pay, but is there teeth behind collection of school fee? And do we see some listings, judgments, that whole process? You're welcome to talk. I think we can hear you.
Yes, it seems like that there's disconnection on my side, or my internet connection is unstable. Based or with reference to our current statuses in our courts, the waiting periods for summonses and for judgments, and the lengthy process, if you go the legal route, is creating problems. It takes longer to obtain a judgment again, and it's costly. So yes, definitely we've seen an increase, not only on the default listing, but a measurement that's been activated to ensure revenue is collected beforehand. So yes, there's definitely an increase in default listing requirements from our clients, and I think we have a positive effect on that.
Okay. Yeah, so it scares me because it feels like my hands are chopped off. I'm the chairperson of a school, SGB member, or the treasurer. School parents are not paying, the economic conditions are bad, and then the courts are not behind you when you follow due process, and it seems like it's costly. I don't know how much cost is costly. It seems like it's too much to mention. So it's a difficult one. Guys, I want to maybe just quickly have a look at my last question, but we can park that one. Colette, maybe if you want to add to that answer of Krishna, is it worthwhile pursuing call it the listing route? You guys talk about listing, ensuring that there is a punitive measure against a parent, or is that not the answer? Colette?
Well, for us, we think it's the best way to go for the parent. It's an education purpose for the parent to say, listen, you're not paying your school fees. It's always the parent goes, yeah, but it's me. It's only me. You don't really, the school's not going to feel it. So educating the parent and say, well, if you don't want to, unfortunately, if you can't pay your school fees, there goes your new car, your new house that you're applying for. And we see it as part of the education of getting the parent to pay the school. So we find there's lots of benefits in listing the parent and making sure that they do have some kind of accountability for their delinquent behavior, that we have to start somewhere, and that's a good start to start. We educate him to do better next time.
Kari, last word from you, then we get to the questions of the audience.
Riaan, I want to totally agree with Colette. I think there's an obligation on schools to do listings, and the reason is as follows. We receive lots of requests from debtors to settle a debt based on the fact that they ran into a listing, and now they are stopped from extending their credit, and now they want to clear the person who listed them. So if a parent cannot pay the school, the question is, why should he be allowed to extend his credit in other ways?
Yeah.
So there's a sort of an obligation on the school to list that parent, to stop him from extending his credit in the first place, and in the second place, that if he wants to apply for credit elsewhere, he must first fix the credit that he is already, the debt that he's already been obligated to pay. So I honestly feel that there's an obligation on schools to list parents and to stop extending the credit of that parent.
Happy with that. Brett, anything you want to add there?
Yeah, I just want to say that credit listing in itself is not a silver bullet. It depends on that person applying for credit. Yes, we do see results, especially parents that are applying for bonds or vehicle financing. They come running quickly and want to settle the whole thing, and that's wonderful. But listing in itself isn't a guarantee of payment. It's one of the many tools that you have to use in your arsenal. The same as the legal process is another tool that maybe has had some of its teeth blunted in the last years. But again, it comes with a well-weighed looking at and taking that decision as to when you are taking those steps towards judgment and enforcement. Now, don't forget enforcement and when you should do that.
Happy with it. I'm going to ask Alreta to quickly share the document. There were a bunch of good questions. I want to start with the first question that has not been asked today, but during the registration process, someone asked, please deal with single parents, divorced parents, and school fee collections, as well as exemption process. Alreta, on two screens again, so I'm not sure if your document is showing. I must quickly find that. But maybe just the just the first question there from the registration process. I think what our panelists have said in various answers is the complexity of the legal process and compliance and understanding. And I think the first point of departure is who is a parent? And the definition of a parent in the law, in the exemption regulations refer to the... So who is a parent, and is that parent? It's not just the biological parent that is liable, but the parents are jointly and severally responsible for school fees. Single, is the other parent still around? Is the other parent traceable? Conditional exemption can take place if you don't have all the information, but that comes to the vetting question. Let's check all the information. But yeah, I think it's a complex one and possibly wider than just a single answer, because each situation, is it divorced, is it untraceable parent? But a parent is responsible for school fees at a school, not half of school fees. A parent is responsible for school fees. Conditional exemption can be given until there is corroborating information, and then the school can apply some discretion there. But that's a really wide discussion. I'm going to jump into it. I'm hoping, oh yeah, there we go. So the treatment of single divorced parents will be addressed, please, both in terms of collections and school fees. What's the acceptable time limit to hand over unpaid school fees? Alreta, there's a little black block on my screen. There we go. What's the acceptable time limit? Krishna, from your side, when is the what's a good starting point to start handing over? The sooner the better, but is it 3 months? Is it 6 months? Is it after a specific event? What is a good time for handing over?
Okay, so a good time, rather sooner than later. The Section 41 is supposed to run at the end of March. As soon as the 3 months lapsed, I suggest that you start with your handover process.
Okay.
Riaan, it seems like the host blocked my video.
Alreta, let's see, maybe the internet is back again. Just see if we can get the video open again on Krishna. There we go. Hopefully the internet's stable. Thanks for that. Colette.
I totally agree with Krishna. After the 3 months, the sooner they hand over, the sooner we get results, and the sooner there is cash flow for the school. I definitely agree that after 3 months is the best time, not to wait until next year to hand over the previous year's debt.
That brings me to the question, why would someone not hand over? And it jumps to the last question, I think it is, Alreta, what are the costs involved? I think schools are thinking, I want to get 100% of the money in. And then they possibly go to the point of getting 0% in, where they would have gotten, what is it, 25, 30% cost. What is the average, and you don't have to disclose your market costs. You could if you want to, but what is the cost involved in outsourcing debt collection, Brett?
I just want to touch on that last question, if you don't mind. I would encourage schools. The one thing that the Schools Act is a victim of is it's very silent on a number of issues. One of the issues is when school fees are due and payable. So if we're looking, and I'm absolutely in favor of handover as soon as possible, but just make sure that in your AGM resolution, that you're looking at 2 clauses in your AGM resolution. One, a resolution that school fees are due and payable at the beginning of the year. 2, that if the school allows any form of indulgence in the payment of installments, that if a single installment is missed, that the whole school fees become due and payable. Because if you don't have that, then your handover is going to be premature, and you're going to run yourself into legal issues there. So just be aware of that as well. Okay, sorry, I was so busy thinking about this last question that I forgot the current question.
The cost. What is the forfeit of cost versus outsourcing versus insourcing? And
I think that the answer is always, what is 100% of nothing versus 80% of something there in terms of it. And I think a lot of collectors, a lot of schools are quite narrow-minded, for want of a better expression. Price is absolutely important, but don't not hand over because you think you're saving something, because at the end of the day, you're not.
Yeah. Alberta, just scroll up to the top of the page again there. I think I just wanted to combine those two. SGB needs to understand that sympathy, I saw this comment, it's more of a comment. Sympathy does not keep the lights on. And I think that's part of the culture of payment that we want to collect and the obligation. Isn't there an easier way to this is a hard one. Isn't there an easier way to collect money? Because the handover to debt collectors is very much time consuming. Even the amount parents agree to pay per month, which can take years. So yes, there's a management process. I heard of someone saying the other day they can give a voucher away for $100 at, I don't know, call it a retail store, because to open an account costs them that much money. So they're willing to give you that money just so that you buy something and come there. So there's always an opportunity cost that's not met. What is the easiest way to collect fees instead of the management and the handover? I don't think there's a good answer. I'll venture one without putting any of you on the spot. But yes, payment mechanisms. Make it as easy as possible for people to pay. Number one, it's difficult to pay a full amount up front in the year, and I think schools use the practice and practice and custom of 8 months, 9 months, 10 months or something to that, just to make it palatable. But as Brett said, it is enforceable as an annual fee, and once they miss, it's actually payable because you build capacity for that. It's school fees an annual fee, although the payment is monthly, and then there's this 90-day, but it's not 90 days after the last payment, it's 90 days in the year. Make it as easy as possible. Debit orders, cashless solutions, wallets on your phones, whatever it is, make it possible. Credit card at the office, make it easy for people to pay and integrate it so that the system does most of the work. Otherwise, talk of something that I would advise schools, and I'm doing it in my own life, but we must change the culture and behavior by changing language. If we keep telling, and this is maybe where I differ a little bit from Kari, is if we keep telling people that they buy a product at the school, they're going to feel the burden of a cost. But if we keep telling people that they're investing with the school fee in the education of their children, the dividend is later. There's a difference in just culture and understanding. So yes, we must manage as a business. Yes, we must collect fees, but we're actually collecting investments. We're not collecting costs. But there's no easy answer to that one. Maybe the next question for the panel: how many people do the average school environment have in specifically their finance office? Colette, Brett, anyone, what do you see is the average office size of the finance team? It's not just one person, am I right?
No, there's more than one. It's normally one person and a bursar. Most of the time, it's two people. The bursar is in charge, and then there's someone doing all the legwork.
Debtors collection. Okay.
Yes.
Anyone want to add to that? 2 or 3 people max. Yeah. Brett?
Yeah, I'd say sometimes you also get the admissions being administered separately, and some of those bigger schools where you're running past the 1,500, you're bringing in a second internal collector in terms of the management.
Yeah. The next question, biggest problem is that the parents are so overextended. Alfreda, do you want to make that page slightly wider? Just zoom in. My old age is getting to me. It's on my second screen. There we go. Biggest problem is that the parents are so overextended that there is no money left for fees. But that's because they pay that last. How do we get fees when they're defaulting on their houses and car payments? Is it even worth handing over these parents? So this is my difficult question. The soft heart inside me and the hard mind saying, but we've got to collect. I've got 2 children. I love both. If the one bites the other one, I cannot say to the one that bit, you're forgiven, because I'm not protecting the other one. And that's the difficult tightrope that a SGB must walk, to say, if we let other people get away with it, our other children are not being protected. There are 2 levers. Number 1, creating the culture of payment for me. Number 2, if they're overextended, the listing must give us a lever to say, if they want to go and extend credit again, they won't be able to. so maybe they get back to us there. Number 3, and I wonder if this is a tough decision, and maybe the panel can add to that. Determination of school fees in the context of the local school economy. If school fees are too high and too expensive in your context, you will not be able to collect it. And if something is too high to pay, I can pay Netflix at $100, but I can't pay DSTV at $1,000. So I stick to Netflix. And maybe there's a value and an absolute point. Krishna, Karya, I'm looking at you. The determination of school fees. What is the value of school fees that makes sense and that's collectible? How do you look at the local economy? Kari?
Riaan, it's an extremely difficult question to answer in that sense, where parents are overextended. And the question should be then, if a parent is that overextended, one must look at the reasons. Is it due to too much credit? And then it becomes a legal technicality in that sense. But I think that this is where, as Brett earlier said, that where the exemption process and the procedure and the criteria must form a critical backbone of this. If the criteria is in line with what is fair and reasonable, then that parent should get exemption. But if that parent doesn't qualify for exemption, then there's other reasons why that parent cannot afford the school fees. And I think it's a multifaceted question that involves just more than one aspect that needs to be addressed in this. But in many instances, I think that the reason for overextension is the fact that too much credit was allowed in the past. And that's, as you said earlier, where the listing is coming in, that at some stage, that parent must be stopped extending its credit, and a listing will help in that sense. But it's not an easy question just to answer as a once-off with a one answer on that.
Yep. I don't have the wisdom of Solomon here, but it might be that school fees are outside of the scope. Guys, we're coming towards the end. The end of our session. I have a quick question that I want to check, because when we spoke about that, I don't know who it was, vetting of parents' information. Now, keeping in mind, and I think someone commented on it, you cannot vet a parent at admission phase, but you can definitely vet a parent at payment and exemption phase. And I think that's the differentiation. I see Brett and Krishna nodding their heads. We must vet the information that we get. Krishna, do you want to add to that? How do we vet parents when they apply or when they don't pay? I'm not hearing you.
It's very important, Riaan, to ensure that the information that is provided to the school, I'm not only referring to an affidavit that's been attached to an application for exemption. I'm sure all of us know that affidavit is not even worth the paper that it stands on, but have a system and have a process in place that the information that you are provided with is verified. Because it happens that information is provided on the application for exemptions, for example, but nothing gets verified. So I will advise the schools to please get a system in place and ensure that the verification of the data provided or the information provided has been done.
Okay. So who can we use? I mean, if they use an outsourced body like some of the people on the screen, you guys have systems. Colette, Brett, you
Yes.
verify more detail. So you do the hard lifting.
So we do that for the schools when they require it. For exemptions especially, we do that. And when they want to, before handing over, to see if they're not try and get the parent to apply for exemptions. But that's part of the service we give as well. We advise the parent, listen, we've traced you, we've seen what type of financial debt you're in, rather go to the school. But it's the pride of the parents that's also stopping them. And that's where it comes in, where you have to have a serious conversation with the parent and says, you have fallen on hard times, things might change. Why not just go to the school, put your pride in your pocket and go and apply for exemption? It's already one little tick that's not going to be a black mark against your name.
Okay. As I want to end and be sensitive to our time, I see some of the people, a lot of people still online, but Ladine, you've heard a lot. you've heard the complexities at a school. What difficulty are you fixing at a school? What is the problem that exists that you can help a school with, given the complexities that you've heard?
I think what we've seen now engaging with schools, obviously everyone doesn't have time and there's just so much on their plate, and they didn't get into education to chase payments. They want to get to, children's education and focus their time on more valuable things to do in the school. So basically the solution that we offer is for the school to automate the process, so it'll free up their hands and ensure that they get to everyone in the school. Because what we've seen is that they filter to the parents that owes the most, and they only focus on them because they don't get to the bottom, the 500s or the 700s. Yeah. So this process, and with AI, I mean, there's so much that we can do. We personalize it so that it doesn't scar the relationship that the schools have with the parents. We have a caring way of reminding the parents. And I heard one school say that you're either echoes and you only phone the parents once every quarter to tell them that they owe you money, or you are Woolworths, where you phone them every single day. And if you
capacity is not there.
the capacity is not there to do that. So with the system, we ensure that the email goes out, the SMS goes out, and ensure that we collect as much school fees as possible before handing over the guys that really can't pay. Okay. And if you have to choose, if you're the person that bugs you the most will get the money first before
the squeaky wheel gets the oil.
The squeaky wheel gets the oil. That's it. Guys, I wanna end off with this. Brett, you got 30 seconds to just shed some light and let us know where we can contact you. I want to say that we don't need to share information. Everything is in the e-magazine. All of our members of the centre are included in the e-magazine page till you get to that. But last word from you, and we'll go back, you, Kari, Colette, and then Krishna.
Yeah, just if anybody wants to contact me, I think the easiest one, just sales@creditcontrol.co.za. Go to the creditcontrol.co.za website, have a look at some of our articles on the public school fees issues, and feel free to contact us for any of those questions that weren't answered.
Happy. Kari, last word from you.
Riaan, no, not much. Just also, you can reach out to Vericred. I don't want to give out my personal email address here. But yes, if you just Google Vericred, you will get our contact information there, and then we will have Neldy, who's our national sales manager. We can reach out to anyone in that sense.
Okay, well, brilliant. Colette, last word from you.
So I can be reached on marketing at Prosperitas or schools at Prosperitas. Whatever questions that wasn't answered, like Brett said, you can find me there. You can ask all of us the same question and compare. That's always good to compare apples with apples and see which solution fits the school. Not all solutions, like I think Brett said before, fits all the schools. So, yeah.
Thank you. Last word from you, Krishna.
Yes, 2 words. Innovate and automate. That's needed. We need to stop working manually and go over to bulk work.
Like that. Thank you so much. Guys, everyone will receive the info sheet with the recording, as well as all the information on our members. And we've got other members in the center as well that you can contact. They're all included in the magazine. And then, just look out for communication about our conference. If you're in the Free State area or the Johannesburg area, join us for a one-day conference on the school finance in difficult times, in challenging times, and we'll share a nice day with good coffee and good company. Thank you to all of our panelists for joining. Thank you for everyone in the audience for joining. Thanks to the team in the background. May you have a wonderful day from a sunny Joburg. Take care. Thank you very much. Go well, guys.